name is Wade Muehlhoff, and I'm a public affairs specialist for the United States Forest Service, currently working in the Intermountain region, which covers Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, and Utah, and we're stationed in Ogden, Utah.
I'm really fortunate that I love my job a lot at the Forest Service, and it gives me a lot of fulfillment, so I don't have that regret that I think a lot of people do, where they spend a lot of time at work and hate it and then come home and are miserable and that carries over. Versus me, like, I love what I do, and then I go home and I love what I do. I love photography. It's very rewarding to be able to capture memories and kind of some of the most intimate moments of people's lives.
My name is Tiana Chavez, and I am a martial arts instructor and enrollment director at MPUSA. I also do full-time substitute teaching at Da Vinci Academy here in Ogden, and I do a lot of on-the-side filmmaking. Recently, director of photography for a project, but it's just kind of, I'll carry the lunches, so I do just everything.
The main thing that I work on is kind of issue management. It seems like daily something will come up either on one of the 12 forests that we serve or here in the regional office. And what that looks like is usually either some kind of communication with the media, either them reaching out to us for information or us believing that we have a story to tell and reaching out to the media to see if they'll help us tell that story. The other way is keeping people up to date, in the know. And that looks like making sure our senior leadership knows what's going on, especially as small crises or issues are emerging. The earlier that we can make sure our senior leadership knows what's going on, the easier the planning for how to deal with that is going to be.
Your own companies actually can be very stressful. I look at it more of as a hobby. So I have it as a legal business and stuff like that, but I pay someone to do my taxes. I deal with all of that so that I can do it just for the enjoyment. So I think for me, because I have a job that pays my bills here at the Forest Service, that job is just for fun for me. So I don't look at it as a money-making thing. I don't look at it as a form of income. Anything that is just on top of my regular income. So it goes to the fun things, it goes to savings, it goes to pay for extra stuff. So I think the stress is a lot less on me than it probably is on someone who's doing it as a full-time, that is their only income, because it would be unpredictable. Versus me, I have a predictable income coming in every paycheck, and then any of that is just on top of everything. But a lot of maintenance, scheduling with clients, upkeep, making sure I get asked lots of questions of what should we wear, where do you want to do them, so finding locations. I do a lot of time before them finding locations that look good. People, have requests for, I want a bridge, or I want lots of trees, or something like that. So driving around, finding the locations that match a client's needs. A lot of communication back and forth, lots of emailing, lots of Facebook messaging and things like that. The shoot itself usually it only takes about an hour, but for about every hour I shoot, I edit for about 4 to 5 hours. Culling the photos, Photoshop, things like that takes a long time. And then either putting them on a CD or putting them online for clients to preview, sending emails to them, letting them know, meeting up with clients to give them their CDs. And if I do an online gallery, I have to go back in later and remove them after a certain period of time, so a lot of that maintenance. Website upkeep, social media is really big now. You've got to keep that on there, so being able to tag people and follow stuff. I've had to learn to love social media to run a business, because that's the only way to be successful as a photographer is to use those social mediums. So it's really enhanced my skills in my work life as well to be able to use them.
So I never knew that I was going to be a freelance filmmaker. When I was studying, I just was working on films, right? And I would create them or I'd crew for them, but freelance didn't even make sense. I just figured I'd work on films. I didn't even have a plan. Well, I did not know I was going to be a martial arts teacher, but like so many things in my life, when I look back, it's kind of like, duh. Like if I was on that path, I just didn't know. I love to teach just in general, and I would even always say when I'm a teacher, when I was a kid, not even knowing what that meant. Everything I've ever done, I've always found myself in a position of teaching. Everything. So when I was studying martial arts, it just happened. It just naturally happened that I just became a teacher. And I was proficient enough at the martial arts that I could be hired as a teacher. So I wasn't just helping people, I was teaching. And the same goes for teaching at Da Vinci. Being a full-time substitute is fantastic because I can do all the subjects, all the different ages, and I can, again, do it on my terms.
The regional office, sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge to figure out what our role is. There's already somebody talking specifically about the fire. There's already somebody talking about what's going on the forest. So when we think about issue management and we think about what we communicate at the regional office, it's a step up from all of that. Where are resources regionally or nationally? You'll hear people talking about planning levels, and that is what needs are there, what resources are there, how well can those resources be distributed where the needs are. And as that elevates, our planning level elevates. So that's one of the things at the regional office we talk about. And then just helping people understand some of the broader concepts. So we support fire in prevention messaging. Talking to people about defensible space, and if they live near a forest, what they can do to make their house and their property less likely to be susceptible to a wildfire.
I had to work a full-time job. I actually at that same time was putting a husband through a doctorate program. So you can't have a job while you're in a doctorate program. He was in pharmacy school, so I was working enough for both of us, putting us both through school. I had to pay the bills. I had to get stuff done. So when life necessitates, you just step up to the plate and do it. I would come in about 6:30 or 7 here. I would stay until about 2 or 3, and then I'd have class in Salt Lake. I'd drive down and classes until like 10 p.m. I'd get out, drive home, so it'd be 11 before I got home. I'd still have to make dinner and do laundry and clean and study and homework, and I genuinely don't know how I did it. I look back now and just think, man, I must have been superwoman because I need way more sleep than that. But you do it when you have to, and I won't say that it was easy. Definitely put a lot of stress on my marriage. There's a reason that divorce rates are over 70% for doctorate programs, and I can say that I can claim that we were one of those. That it's hard because being in a doctorate program, being in grad school, you have to be a little selfish. You've got to focus on yourself because you're taking out all this money in student loans and putting all these extra years of college in, and you've got to have something to show for it at the end.
Jobs are many, and they impact me in tons of different ways, because sometimes, of all days to ask this question, some days they overlap and conflict, and they all take priority, and I have to use my really amazing adaptive and creative skills to make the many things work.
Yeah, I think federal service is an awesome opportunity. It's so wide open. I mean, you think about, from the IRS to the Veterans Administration to your land management agencies, Bureau of Reclamation. I couldn't even sit here and name all of the federal agencies that have public affairs positions. But this is, we are the people's agencies. The work we do is on behalf of the American people. And it's important that the American people understand what we do and why we do it.
So find something that you love and give it everything. There are definitely days, your job is hard. It's always going to be a job. And you've still got to find a paycheck. You've still got a way to make a living. But it helps a lot more if you enjoy what you're doing.
I have a friend who I worked with on a project. And until I worked with this person, I had never understood what it was like to be trusted, to have the expertise and just be trusted explicitly with what I knew. I wasn't being questioned or second guessed. And not only was I trusted, I was relied upon, and my advice was sought, and it was appreciated, and it was used, if it was reasonable. My advice, just because it's my advice, doesn't mean you have to take it, right? But it was really taken seriously. And in that experience, it benefited the project. And until I had that experience, I didn't know that I was ever going to find it. I thought that I needed to have a piece of paper with a degree on it or something before I was going to be taken seriously. And that can help. But I was able to find that without that. And I appreciate that experience. If I had not had that with that person, I wouldn't be able to do what it is I'm doing now at my martial arts school. I would not be in a position to have the responsibility that I have right now.